This episode of Critical Hit is being brought to you by Liberty After. It's a brand new sci-fi post-apocalyptic RPG setting that blends the familiarity of D&D 5e with expanded rules for scavenging a war-torn urban wasteland. Hey listeners, it's Steven Schleicher, and really quick before we get into the mailbag this week, I wanted to point you to our Patreon page at patreon.com/major spoilers. Patreon.com/major spoilers. Now, many of you know that for years we have relied on you, our listeners, to support us so that we can keep shows like Critical Hit going. We do so much. Go check it out, majorspoilers.com, to see everything that we do. But we are very close to our next goal, and our next goal, I think, is going to benefit you, our listeners, the most. When we hit our next goal, it means our patrons, which could be you, get to have new episodes of Critical Hit a week ahead of everyone else. That's right. You're on the edge of your seat after this week's episode. Guess what? You could listen to next week's before everyone else. So here's what I would like for you to do. Head to patreon.com/major spoilers and just check out and see what we have. Check out our goals, check out our rewards, check out all the bonus stuff that you get access to when you become a patron, and then just make the decision yourself if you would like to become a patron or not. Thank you for your consideration. Now let's check out the mailbag. Once again, before we get into the game this week, let us get into that email bag and read this one from Daniel. You guys may have already gotten a suggestion, but listening to you guys on the mailbag talk about fantasy settings versus others, I wanted to suggest my favorite setting in the world for a future game. In case you don't know, Shadowrun is a cyberpunk near-future sci-fi that magic exists in the world, and he goes on and explains what Shadowrun is. I think all of us know what that is. Basically, urban fantasy, high fantasy, and cyberpunk all blended together, he says. If you guys are interested, there are a couple of options of play even. You could play current 5th edition core book, which has enough rules and crunch to make Rob go crazy, or you could play the subsystem known as Shadowrun Anarchy, which borrows from more narrative RPG systems, but still uses this awesome setting. Thanks for the years of entertainment. Keep up the awesome work, whether you end up playing Shadowrun or not. I look forward to years more, says Daniel. Thoughts on Shadowrun? Rodrigo, aren't you a Shadowrun fan?
I am a Shadowrun fan. I greatly enjoy reading through the books and then setting the books down, just sort of like crossing all my fingers together and sitting here waiting for someone to invite me to a Shadowrun game, because I'm not running Shadowrun. Definitely not the full crunch version. Every new edition of Shadowrun that comes out, I open it up and I'm like, well, maybe this time they simplified, this and this. And sometimes they do, but then they complicate something else. Yeah. Like Shadowrun is a crunchy game. That's the point. At least this full edition, right? Where, it's like if you thought about it in terms of D&D, in terms of 4th edition, it would be a game where like your swords, like hilt and pommel and blade, were all sort of independent knobs that you could turn to cover for the fact that you focused on giving yourself, magical brain powers instead of any amount of parrying. However, you have an Ion Stone that compensates for compensating for that. Like, that's what playing Shadowrun is like. And I'm not saying that's not fun to play, but I've never even attempted to run it because my brain just turns into knots.
Sam, you've done some Shadowrun, haven't you?
Yeah, most of my experiences with Shadowrun have been someone's like, let's play Shadowrun. Let's make characters for Shadowrun. And I'm like, okay, I'll play the shaman. I can't have any cyberware because I don't want to have to deal with cyberware. So my character's done. I built it in an hour. How's everyone else doing? It's like, oh, it'll be 3 more hours before we have characters. It's like, cool. But I love the idea of the setting. I love the idea of fighting megacorps run by dragons and going on runs, but there's what?
Didn't we just do that?
Fight a megacorp run by a dragon?
Hey.
But there was no dragon. But yes. Oh yeah. Did you not realize that the entire Salamander's Coil plotline was Rodrigo backdooring into running a Shadowrun game while using 4th ed rules? Because
I do now.
Oh yeah. Sorry. That his initial pitch to me was like, if this sounds like Shadowrun, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, nice.
What about anybody else? Anybody else taking on the Shadowruns?
I Here's my problem. This is my problem. I cannot play Shadowrun again. And the simple reason why
they banned you. They said, no more Matthew Petersons can play
actually,
Shadowrun.
Kids.
We are banning you.
No, here's the thing. I was playing Shadowrun in late 1999. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with pop culture. You're at Major Spoilers. There's no reason you know this stuff. There's a movie that came out in 1999. That movie was called The Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
And The Matrix ruined Shadowrun for me because I was playing. First of all, the game was way too big. The game master tried to have 10 players. She did not know what she was doing. So 10 players, and literally everybody is playing a variation on Neo, except for the one guy who was playing Trinity.
Also, what do they call the internet in Shadowrun?
The Matrix.
It's The Matrix. I'm not saying that The Matrix is bad or that Shadowrun is bad. I'm just saying that when you put them together, it can, poison the well for really everybody.
Shadowrun actually seems crunchy beyond what I want to enjoy.
Oh, okay. Does it? Wow.
It's crunchy.
I don't know.
Wait, Rob's break.
Wait, I mean, we found Rob's.
Not too long ago, I've pretty much picked up the last 3 core rule books, and the most recent one I re-downloaded again from DriveThruRPG, which was updated with this master index, where it's like, this index combines the indexes of the 6 core rule books, and I'm like, nope.
Brilliant.
Wait. Is it wrong that hearing that makes me think, I could run a game of Shadowrun for Rob?
Hey,
that's spite that makes you run something, I am down. I will hate every moment of it just to get you to run it.
Although I have not looked into Anarchy.
I'd rather play or run Eclipse Phase as a cyberpunk game.
I think if I wanted to do something cyberpunk, let's just do it with the Fate Accelerated and just make it our own stuff.
Oh yeah. There are lighter options, and again, I haven't tested out Anarchy, but there are lighter options that focus on other things. Like Shadowrun is all about the gear. It's all about the gear, and it's fun. Like I like crunchy games just fine as long as I'm not the one running them. And it is fun to sit there and be like, I want a different motion suppressor on my gun and smart link, and then smart link in my brain. And do I want alphaware of betaware? Like, what's my budget for my character? Blah blah blah. That stuff actually can be fun.
Now.
When I was in college, they had a video game version. I believe it was Neuromancer, or was it the what's the Johnny Mnemonic?
Johnny
Mnemonic. It was one of those games, and it was like CD based, right? So you had a CD in, so it was like really cool, and the graphics were cool.
Max Headroom?
But they explained nothing about how to do anything in the game. And so for like 3 hours, I'm just like running around on the first floor trying to get out of the building. I'm like, screw this. And that may have kind of spoiled me a little bit on those kind of cyberpunky type games.
Are you sure this wasn't Deus Ex?
No, it wasn't. This was like 1990. 95.
It might have been
like
Shadowrun. Shadowrun has had some really, really bad games.
Okay.
I actually really liked the old 16-bit games that came out.
Sure.
I think it may have been Neuromancer, because I remember it's like I had just finished reading either the Gibson or whatever Sterling, and was like, oh yeah, I'm going to play this game, and I was like,
Sturgeon.
Anyway. There you go. Podcast at majorspoilers.com. If you have questions, we will answer them in the future with some of this lively discussion. One thing I never expected to have happen when playing Critical Hit is to experience more than just D&D 4E. I'm really impressed and happy with all of the game systems that we have been playing over the last couple of years. And I want to share some news with you from the greater role-playing community. Our friends over at the Liberty Podcast have just released a new sci-fi and post-apocalyptic RPG setting that blends the familiarity of D&D 5e with the expanded rules for scavenging a war-torn urban wasteland. I got my hands on the Liberty After playbook just a few weeks ago, and I've been flipping through it. It looks really cool. What is Liberty After? Well, on a distant planet, 2 worlds are at odds with one another, of course. On one side of the wall, the advanced military state of the Undying Archon controls the lives of its citizens, and on the other side, post-apocalyptic gangs battle for the scant few resources the failing colony has left to offer. Will you venture through the old mining tunnels to raid the Archon's holdings, or join her undercover agents on an expedition to expand her influence? Their book, called Liberty After, features over 30 new backgrounds and weapons, dozens of new special abilities, deities, poisons, enemies, and misfire charts. Misfire charts. As I mentioned, the Liberty Group gave us an early copy. I'm really surprised. 150 pages, beautiful full-color art on almost every page, 50 pages of illustrated settings guide. The artwork is really cool. It's by veteran D&D artists. Here's another interesting quirk about Liberty After. You could submit your stories and have your campaign immortalized in the world's official canon so long as you don't blow up the planet, which means you might find your characters in future comics, graphic novels, or audio drama podcasts that the Liberty team creates. On that topic, they also have just released a new show on the Liberty podcast called Liberty Vigilance, which is an actual play podcast that uses the After system. They added a lot of sound effects and even swapped out the voices of non-player characters with voice actors from The Walking Dead, Borderlands, StarCraft, and Space Ghost. Wayne June from The Darkest Dungeon is also the game master, so it's worth checking out. You can hear the Liberty podcast at either libertyendures.com or however you listen to high-quality podcasts, and you can find the Liberty After Core book on drivethrurpg.com. There are links in the show notes for that. So now that we've gone through the mailbag, now that we've talked about Liberty After, let's get into this week's episode of Critical Hit. Welcome to Critical Hit, a Major Spoilers podcast. Thank you so much for downloading and checking us out this week. Let's get back into the action. I think we were on a boat.
Yes.
You were on a boat.
Hooray! Point for me.
Yes. Steven gets like 100 XP this game.
Yes. I'm now at 143,100.
There you go. So, last time...
On Critical Hit.
That was pretty good.
On Critical Hit.
Can't use that West Coast delay anymore, Rob.
I just...
In case he curses.
Yeah, Rob is just... should just do that, you know, that thing where you stick your finger in your cheek and you go... Just do that one at the end if you're having too much of a delay. We could always use one of those. What did happen last time on Critical Hit?
We investigated our spongy starfish.
Yes.
And connected it to many things, including Randus and my special sword.
And my differently special sword.
And had a secret conversation with the sword.
And Team Lawyer went through all the rules of the... what is it, of worms? The Pact of Worms?
Treaty of Worms.
Treaty of Worms. There you go. And we are on our way to a secret hidden base.
Okay.
And some buttheads withheld information.
What give me the gist of the findings from looking for the Treaty of Worms.
So we have about a week in which the meeting has to happen to determine if the Treaty of Worms is going to continue or not, or what the outcome of that is. And we have about 2 weeks for sleeping gods to wake up, and then everything starts to fall apart.
That's 2 weeks after the initial week.
They kind of overlap. I think it's 2 weeks after the meeting.
Okay.
Wasn't it?
Yep.
Which
Okay,
isn't
Yeah,
actually...
when negotiations fall apart, the clock to doomsday begins.
And negotiations are going to fall apart. So
Yeah, we've been told that ahead of time.
All right. So, anybody got any questions before we get back into it?
I don't think so.
All right.
On a boat.
So, yeah, we'll pick. For an additional 100 XP, what is the name of the boat?
Oh, man. Let me look here.
I wrote it down.
Dawn's Arena.
That is right.
Dawn's Arena.
Steven's
Orm's going to pull ahead.
Steven's just racking them up.
Ooh, I'm going to hit level 21 before the rest of you.
Yeah, you got to make some scrolls or something to, use up that XP to keep us even.
That's not how this edition works.
Yes, thankfully.
All right. So yes, you are all in the Dawn Zarina, heading for a mysterious secret base. Orem gets a response.
Oh, Sparkle. I got a response. It says, I assume you speak for Sparkle. Some casualties, mostly rats and elves, accounted for. All others MIA. I'll keep. What's your friend's name? Sisjin?
Yeah.
Yeah. He'll keep him safe. So
thank you. That's my father's name.
Oh yes. Okay. So yes, just a few casualties, mostly rats and elves, are accounted for. All the others, which I assume he means the our friends from Oversight, are MIA.
And Lek, and of course us.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Techiatl.
Right.
Who may or may not be Techiatl.
Well, yeah. All right.
Sorry.
Well, I'm glad that he's okay and that he'll take care of my father while I'm doing this insanity.
Orem just nods.
All right. Well, thanks.
Sure.
Orem. Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
All right. So, as you guys continue to sail, I guess, even though no sails are actually involved, through the Astral Sea, you all spot a large island which kind of snuck up on you. That is to say, unless you were sitting there actively looking, towards the horizon, looking for something, when you realize it's there, it's already quite visible. As you approach, you realize that the shore of it, at least, is covered in enormous crystalline, like mineral protrusions that appear to be black and are just kind of the same general hue as the Astral Sea itself. As the boat approaches, you start to see, due to the luminous nature of the ship's wake, that the structures are in fact not black, but either a sort of dull red or a deep green, depending. And these are like, they vary from basically long cylindrical things, anywhere from 4 feet long to maybe about 30 feet long, and about they hold a consistent ratio between length and width. So it's not like it's all like thin spikes of various lengths. It's like the big ones are really big in every direction. They're just big cylinders of sort of glassy looking rock. As the ship approaches, it turns along the coastline of this place and eventually begins to turn into a cove, which is very difficult to see, as it essentially cuts in between two big ledges of these rocks. Essentially, it kind of has like a little hidden cove. It's not mystically hidden in any way. It's just kind of physically hidden by the shape and contour of the island and all of the weird protrusions that cover all over each other. Once inside this passage, you guys see that the mineral protrusions really only exist along the shoreline, and the inside of the island is just sort of a gently sloping area. From here, you can see what are clearly some docks where the ship is pulling into. Past them, there are several buildings connected by pathways, and I am just talking about straight up on the ground, normal pathways. There's at least one fairly tall watchtower made of black stone. It's after you get through the here's a secret island. Oh, here's like an actual inhabitable piece of land inside this like weird crystalline thing. It's actually kind of weirdly mundane. The buildings look like they've been put together recently, mostly wood. Aside from that tower, and a couple other places, the docks seem brand new, like they've been built more than likely for the purposes that you're using them now rather than being here previously. You do spot some people moving around in the distance. You would imagine that in this island you could easily have about 200 people living and working, and there would be, plenty of space and an ability to move in and out. As you pull into the docks, you see two other ships. They are somewhat larger than the Dawn's Arena. They appear to be big cargo ships, and they're just kind of off in a section that, they're not being loaded or anything. They're just kind of off at rest over there. And as the Zarina pulls up to the dock, some dock hands come up to secure it and allow the gangplank to be lowered for everybody to walk out. Sarza comes out as the final docking finishes up, and she says, well, welcome to Rutile Island. This will be our base for the foreseeable future.
Well, why don't you show us around?
Very well. As you guys disembark, the captain gives you all kind of a salute and then goes about hustling his people around and basically getting the ship properly docked, and probably has like paperwork and stuff to do.
Captain stuff.
Yeah, captain stuff.
So at the dock,
mm-hmm.
would one be able to see the actual bits of the astral sea?
Yes, the astral sea goes right into this place.
Would one be able to touch the astral sea?
Oh, no, you don't want to do that.
The astral sea destroys anything that is not meant to live in it.
Well, it's a good thing that Orm grabbed Sikar's hand to stop him from doing that.
No, Orm didn't grab. He just was like, no, shook his finger. Don't touch that.
Finger shaking.
Yes.
What is meant to live in the astral sea besides gods?
Monsters.
Horrible things.
Great.
Well then, as she asked, perhaps we could be shown around.
Yeah.
Of course. So she walks towards the center of the island. This island is going to, or has been, our headquarters for maybe a month and a half so far. We are still sort of consolidating all our resources, but we have managed to establish a few departments which should be helpful to you as you tackle your quest. She walks into what appears to be the central building, although it's not necessarily the biggest building. It's just kind of like a bunch of offices and a library and kind of a big open mezzanine area with tables and chairs around. Right now, we have 5 main departments that we are staffing. We have a theologian, an engineer, an astrocartographer, of course, our armorer, and a spy master. So they have largely been in charge of finding their people, but their main they're essentially here to facilitate things for you. We are going to go meet our theologian now here at the library.
Are these all followers of Bahamut?
Not all of them. Bahamut was not necessarily insistent that the people gathered should be followers. The Celestial Crusade proved to many that when priests surround themselves with priests, they just come up with generally one type of idea. So we are trying to work with a more diverse group. That said, some of our certainly our theologian comes from a family that has been traditionally pledged to Bahamut.
I see.
So just a group of like-minded individuals that don't want time to end?
Yes, or who were willing to take on the work for their own purposes.
Fun.
So you guys walk into what is it's a large library, but for a group trying to prevent the universe from caving in on itself, it is perhaps a modest library. At the center of it, sort of directing traffic, is a dwarf. She is maybe slightly over 4 feet tall. She's dressed in white and red, has a long, thick braid of black hair. Just like built like a brick. She's almost as wide as she is tall. But she's wearing some nice robes, not necessarily priestly robes, but just sort of scholarly robes, maybe. Zarza walks up, motions to her, and says, "This is our theologian, Barrett Demonfoe." And she extends a hand.
Oh, it's nice to meet you. Shake the hand.
Okay. Yep. Goes around, shaking hands.
Yeah, everybody. Carefully.
Well, I'm very glad to meet all of you as well. We are in the process of recategorizing our tomes here. We should be up and running and ready to go as situations require.
Okay. Have you done some preliminary research or anything that we should know about?
She just very lightly looks over at Sarza, then back at Orem. Yes, we have.
Excellent.
And that research has been
mostly trying to ascertain information about slumbering gods.
Good.
Yes.
As well as any ancient treatises on their interactions that they had with our current pantheon, and of course ascertaining where their holy cities might be.
So what do you have to report?
It's we've managed to gather various amounts of information on upwards of 200 gods. So I'm afraid any sort of report at this point would be mostly names with very small amounts of information. So at this stage, I would prefer to continue cataloging until we have something else to go on.
Makes sense.
Okay.
All right. Who's doing the cataloging?
I am, along with my staff.
All right. Can we get a list of those gods that you've discovered, along with an idea as to how likely they are to wake up and how likely they are to work with us, as well as the portfolios and any other information that you've actually discovered?
She scratches her head. So you would prefer then that we stop cataloging and put together a report?
I'd say continue cataloging, since the 250 isn't going to be especially useful unless all 250 wake up, in which case this is an impossible job. Maybe just keep getting everything organized so that when we actually see things starting to stir, we can have the most thorough portfolios on those that are going to be relevant.
She looks over at Ket.
Seems reasonable. Can I at least get a list of the gods? Or do you at least have them in a list?
We'll put something together for you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Not currently.
All right. I'm going to get back into it then. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Look forward to saving the world with you.
Yes.
You too.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you too.
And she gets back into it. The majority of her staff are humans, but there's a couple dwarves as well. All right. How about, so on the opposite side of the library, we would have our astrocartographer, but he's not here right now. We are going to have to go pick him up probably within the day.
Okay. Where is he at? Or she?
He is in Shalai right now, gathering some charts.
Okay.
But let's go to the armory and the machine shop.
Oh.
Very well. We will follow.
Okay. So she leads you to another building. This one is more stone, and there's clearly actually a couple smithies built into it. One of them appears to be active. And as you walk in, you see that there is a significant part of the building that is also underground. Essentially, you go in at the first floor, and there's at least 2 basement levels, as well as the smithy, which seems to be in the main level. So, any Sarza turns to you. Machine shop or smithy?
I'd say machine shop.
Of course.
All right. She leads you downstairs to what is a very large space, just covered in various machines of sort of various technological stages, as it were. Some of them are pretty simple. Some of them are near Randus level contraptions, and basically behind a pile, there's a big workshop bench, and behind a bunch of stuff there, you hear some clanking and cranking. And Sarza walks around to it and kind of finds something to knock on, and knocks on something metal and makes a big clanging noise, and a head pops out from the junk. It is a dragonborn. She has green scales, kind of lizard head face, pointy teeth. 4th edition dragonborn head tentacles, like you do.
Scale hair.
Yeah. Because I guess they didn't want Dragonborn to not be able to like take their helmets off and like shake their heads. And
hey, I have much less problems with the head tentacles than with the breasts on the female Dragonborn.
Secondary sexual.
there is that.
Yeah.
So yes, she's wearing some baggy pants and a tank top, wearing leather gloves and boots, and is also wearing a pair of goggles as she's sort of cranking away at something. But she looks over and pulls up her goggles, and she's like, "Oh, is this them?" Zarsa's like, "This is them." Like, oh, this is great. I'm so glad you guys are here. And she comes around and she very deftly walks over and shakes the hands and kind of isolates Orem and Randus. I have read a lot on your work. You two are very famous around here, mostly for war crimes, but also for your mechanical ability, which is very fascinating to me. Less so the other stuff. I'm not really what would you say? Lawyer?
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, people around here call me Pistonella.
Okay.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, it's nice to meet you guys too. Have you guys seen The Thing?
Don't think we have.
Well, and she like starts walking out, and Sars is like, "Just we'll show them to them later, okay? Why don't you just talk to them about what you do here?" And she turns around and she's like, "Oh well, I made The Thing based on your research, and also I maintain the ships, and I'm kind of, I guess, in charge of innovating. Also, if you guys find any sort of weird, I suppose, enemy, is it like straight up enemy stuff? Are we calling it that? Whatever. Adversarial technologies, I can help you guys figure that out and maybe retrofit them if you want."
Okay.
I also have a few assistants, but they're all asleep right now because I made them work all night.
That's a good idea. Working at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to come back by here later and see this thing.
Yeah, that'd be great. Oh, by the way, we have set aside that area over there, and she points at a giant pile of junk. We're going to clear the junk out of that, and then that is going to be a designated area for you guys to work on whatever projects you want. We've also set aside about 50,000 in material components for you guys to use, and Sarza goes, "It's 250,000." And she goes, 250,000.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
You'd think I'd be better with numbers, but I'm not. I have a lackey for that. I get lackeys now.
Oh, will we get lackeys?
Well, I guess you can borrow my lackeys.
Okay.
Technically, we're all your lackeys. You can have sub-lackeys.
Oh, okay. Leans to Randus. Man, the stage just keeps getting better and better.
Okay.
Oh, it was very nice to meet you, Pistonella.
It was nice to meet you guys, too. Also, these guys. And she goes back to work.
Yeah, I suppose we got to move on.
So, Sarsa takes you out of the shop. All right. Armory?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So she takes you back up the stairs and into one of the smithies. And in there is a human lady. She's got dark skin, platinum blonde hair. She's really buff, and she's seems to be in the process of literally checking some irons on the fire. She walks over when she sees you come in. Like, Welcome to the smithy.
Thank you.
Sarsa motions to her. This is Zar Dinbani. She's our armorer. She walks over, says, I look forward to working with you. We've already managed to acquire or enchant some gear for you. We didn't know what exactly you would need, so we've been sort of in this process of acquiring and hoarding as much as we can. Obviously, it's easy to come across mildly enchanted swords around the Astral Sea. Those things just kind of come out of the woodwork, but we've managed to actually find some relics that might actually help. Let me see.
Can you show us what you've got?
Yeah, just come over here. Let's see. We didn't know if all of the original members of your group would be here, so hopefully you all can make do. But Randus, right?
Yeah.
She goes to a table and from under it pulls out a large wooden box, pushes it towards you. I don't know how well those will work given your arm situation, but we can probably figure out a way to make them or to change them up if you need to.
Okay. Go ahead and open it up and take a look.
Okay, so inside are a pair of bracers. They are very, or they're not very like impressive looking bracers. But obviously Randus has been around magical stuff long enough that he can recognize that these have a very powerful enchantment on them. And basically they're just sort of steel bracers with some elven runes around, basically the part that doesn't go up against your wrist, the other part. And so these are braces of archery at level 26. So the property is when attacking with a bow or crossbow, you gain a +6 item bonus to damage.
Oh. Yeah, I think we can. I can manage to make this work here. Probably just have to build it into the one arm, and I think I can get that to work.
All right. Let's see. You must be Ket.
Yeah.
We have found a pair of gloves for you, and she hands you a sort of a very nice velvet bag that with a string at the top.
All right.
So you open
it up.
Yep, open it up. These are gloves that have a sort of a steel reinforcement mesh to them. They're black, but when they catch the light, they've got kind of a steely sheen to them. These are Great Heroes gauntlets. So they are a level 27 magic item, and you can find them in the Adventurer's Vault too, and you can find Bracers of Archery in the Adventurer's Vault. But when you spend an action point to make an attack, you gain a +2 bonus to attack rolls for that attack. And when you spend an action point to make an attack and the attack deals damage, you gain temporary hit points equal to your healing surge value. All right. Orem, correct?
Oh, yes, uh-huh.
She goes to a closet and then comes out with a small box.
I take it.
Okay.
And open it up.
Okay. In it is a golden sort of braided chain.
Oh, very pretty.
Yeah. Definitely goes with your stuff.
Yeah, it does.
So this is a torque of power preservation. TORC, of course. Too soon.
Definitely too soon.
So it is a level 25 next slot item. So that's a +5 enhancement bonus.
Okay.
So we'll get into how that goes with your inherent bonuses here in a bit. Well, basically it replaces your inherent bonuses unless they're at 5. So I guess that was quick.
That was the bit.
Yep. And then they have a daily you can find this in the Adventurer's Vault. And then it has a daily power, which is a free action. Uses power after using encounter power of the Torque's level or lower. Roll a d20 plus the Torque's enhancement bonus. If the result is 10 or higher, the power renews as if you had taken a short rest. If the result is lower than 10, you don't expend the use of this power, and no daily use of a magic item power occurs.
Okay.
So you can keep trying it every time you use a power.
All right.
And then Sarsa motions to Little Sparkle and says, "This is Little Sparkle. She has some talent in infiltration and espionage, from what I understand."
She nods.
Well, I don't know that we have anything that directly relates to that, but we have some. Here's an item that I think is going to be helpful if you are not walking around wearing armor or wearing light armor. And she hands you a sphere, a basically jet black sphere.
What does it do?
It's a magic tattoo.
Wait, so I apply this to my feathers?
Well, if you have any exposed skin, I would put it there.
She'll like kind of look down at her arms, like, okay. Yeah. And put the orb on top of her arm.
Yep, it basically melts into a liquid and turns into a sort of aniconic but cool kind of like black fire looking tattoo. You can decide how exactly that looks. So this is a fire heart tattoo. It comes from the Adventurer's Vault 2. It doesn't have, or it has a property. When you spend an action point to take an extra action, this is the level 24 version, so you gain 15 temporary hit points.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So when you spend an action point, gain 15 temps?
Yes.
Cool.
So this is a level 24 Fireheart tattoo.
Cool.
And Sarsa says, this is Sakar. He's the, what would you say? Certainly the strong defense of the group, if I understand correctly.
I believe you understand correctly.
Well, we managed to, says the smithy, or the smith, we managed to track down a strange suit of armor. However, we can try to find you something else because it's sort of a weird one. It seems to have, and she's like sort of looking for it, and she pulls it out, and it's basically a shirt that is made of thick leather scales that are very reminiscent of reptilian scales. That kind of attaches, and she pulls, some other things like greaves and stuff. It's like, this is kind of a strange one. I don't know that anybody would be comfortable with it. It kind of has like this strange affinity for snakes. So,
I'm sure I can overcome any problems I might have.
Oh, all right. Well, that's good. We'll still keep an eye out for something else if we can find it. And she puts it on the table. And yeah, this is a full set of armor. It is hide armor. So it is.
You can't see it, so that's good.
Yes. It is serpent skin armor. It's also dark hide, because if you'll recall, as enhancement bonuses increase, you also get options of higher level mundane armors as well. So dark hide has a higher AC bonus than regular hide. So this is a level 23 serpent skin dark hide armor. So it's a +5 bonus to your AC on top of what the dark hide provides. And it has a power. It's a daily. You can shift 3 squares. The shift can move through enemy spaces, though you must end your move in a legal space. So it's kind of a slither power.
Ooh. You said it's +5?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Just a quick question on my item. So if I spent it to reroll on a skill challenge, I would not get the temps?
That would not apply. No.
Got it. Okay.
So dark hide armor has an AC bonus of +4. So there should be a separate square that's like AC bonus +4, and then enhancement bonus +5, plus your dexterity or intelligence, whichever is higher, because this applies it, and then it still has a -1 check penalty to athletics and acrobatics and stuff like that.
I'm seeing minimum enhancement value +4.
Yep. So since this is a +5, it's legal.
Got it. I should probably put that on, huh?
At your leisure. There is the catch that this is not going to be super cool disappearing armor like you have.
Which sometimes you have to give up effect to be awesome serpent skin.
Yep.
If only you had the ability to make yourself invisible.
If only.
Also, Rodrigo, this torque of power replaces my amulet of protection?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions about gear?
No, thank you very much.
Yes,
no problem. We are actively looking to outfit you guys with even better weapons and armor. As it stands right now, these are the only ancient relics that we've been able to track down. A lot of the job here also just includes making sure our guards and troops are properly outfitted. I help Pistonella with repairs as well. She requires a lot of iron and things that need to be hammered out, and has a lot of very specific requests.
How large is your armed force?
She looks at Sarza. What would you say? Just like, we have about 50 armed personnel here on the island. And she kind of moves her head around a little bit, as though she's trying to make a calculation. Obviously not counting Salath's people, because I never know exactly how many of them are on the island.
Who's that?
Our spy master.
Okay, well, maybe we should visit him next.
Let's do that.
Okay.
She turns to Dinbani and waves, and she waves at you all and gets back to work. So Sarsa takes you to that tall stone black stone tower. She opens the door, or the front door to it. You walk in, and it's a fairly large area. It's separated into maybe 3 rooms. And then you can see the stairs to go up into the actual tower area. When you walk in, you see a half-orc. He has gray skin, big tusks, and a pair of ram-like horns. He is shaven, both his face and his head. He wears a sleeveless black tunic tied at the waist with a belt, and seems to also be wearing some like baggy, comfortable pants that are kind of tied at the ankles. And he is speaking to a human who is pretty much dressed like a ninja, like just wearing dark clothes, covered up face, hood. And when you all walk in, the ninja looks at him and he kind of motions, and it scrambles away, just kind of runs out the back.
No puff of smoke.
Nope. No, but
Awesome.
there was probably no reason for whoever this person was to run, but they do. They just kind of like, and then they're out of sight.
Just out of habit.
Yep. And he walks over. He is he's not like super burly. He's actually like really kind of lean for a half-orc, but he is tall. And he kind of walks over with his hands behind his back, sort of in a not like he's hiding something, but more of like in a inspecting Sifu way.
Mm-hmm.
You must be our what are we calling them? Bosses, I suppose.
It would
I'm
seem
okay
so.
with that term.
I guess.
My name is Salath. I am the spy master here. We are trying to get ears on as much as we can. It has some places are proving to be a challenge, some others are easy, and it all comes from the same sort of chaos.
Well, if there's anything I can do to help with some of the harder places, do let me know.
I would appreciate that, although I imagine most of the time I am mostly going to be conveying information to you for you to put that to use however you see fit. As much as I would like to have skilled, or I suppose superb personnel digging into what everyone else is doing in the Astral Sea, I think it's going to be up to me to get my people there so that you can all reap the benefits of the information.
All right. Well, glad you're on the job.
Yes, me too. Is there anything in particular you are wanting to get information on?
I guess our next big focus is going to be this meeting. So if you have any information on those who will be attending the attempted rewrite of the treaty, that would be appreciated.
Yes, I'll try to put something together for you on that.
Also, do you know if anybody's actually attempted to set up the meeting yet?
No. That sort of thing is going to be mostly handled by our theologian. She would know that, because that would go strictly through divine channels. Right now, we are really concerning ourselves with troop movements and essentially the back channels of the of the divine cities and trying to see if we can get any wind of anything that's going on behind the scenes.
All right.
Makes sense.
Well, it was nice meeting you.
Mm-hmm.
You as well.
I look forward to working with you.
Yes, should be nice.
All right. Well, guess we turn around and wander out.
Okay. Yeah. Unlike everybody else, this guy just kind of stands there and basically stares at you until you leave.
Nice.
All right. How about you take some time to put on your gear, and we'll reconvene and talk about getting our astrocartographer here.
Okay.
Did we speak with the theologian already?
Yes, that was the female.
Okay.
Yeah, that
dwarf.
was the first stop. The person at the library who was gonna keep cataloging.
Okay. I didn't realize that was the theologian.
Pistonella mentioned something about a thing.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. I'll tell you what. You go get ready, and then we'll show you the thing.
Okay. All right. Where do we go?
We'll meet you at the dock.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I
Orm starts
guess are
changing
there
his clothes in
quarters for
front of
us or
everybody.
something?
Of course. If you'll follow me. And she takes you to a barracks, which seems to be only for you guys. There's about 10 rooms, but it seems to be otherwise deserted. There's a large meeting room, some books, a kitchen, a little training circle. It's kind of a small complex in and of itself.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We will see you very soon.
See you then. She walks off.
Well, they seem very well prepared.
Yeah, I'm not
Hopefully.
used to having a support staff.
We probably do need to discuss the repeated reference to war crimes at some point.
Yeah, what did you guys do?
Saved the universe?
Yeah, multiple times.
By
Then
what means?
are they talking about that like
Any necessary.
yeah, that's all right, so are they talking about that Lolth temple thing or is there
I don't
more
know.
that we should know
I
about?
assume we'll find out here shortly.
Hmm.
We made deals with literal devils.
Mhm. And what
well,
did you offer up in
actually-
return?
I made a deal with the devil. No one else did.
All right. So I guess besides the book that you don't know what it was that you stole and the temple that you gave up, anything else that we should know about that's going to possibly come and bite us?
We stole a
Probably.
piece of Cord's hair.
For who?
Maybe.
Cord.
No,
Us.
no, for who? Who did you steal it for?
For us,
Randus?
Why did Randus need that?
He had to make something of a bomb.
Out of hair?
It was one of the components.
Yeah.
But was it the only thing strong enough to tie things together?
Pretty much.
Yeah, Cord's hair was actually used to close the rift.
Oh, right.
All right. Well, if it exploded, that doesn't sound too bad.
Well, it didn't explode here.
We did destroy most of a school.
What? A school for what?
For magic. That wasn't our fault.
It wasn't exactly our fault.
Oh boy.
Which, I mean, really, it wouldn't be considered a war crime.
Were there children in it?
I'm sure there were plenty of people
This is a
inside.
university.
And did everyone in it die?
No, not everyone.
Did anyone die?
I'm sure
I'm
people
pretty
died.
sure some people did.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, usually destroying civilian buildings is
But again,
not.
not our fault.
Why was it not your fault?
Meteors
We
from
were
the sky.
taking down an enemy vessel.
Oh, and it, crashed into the school?
Yeah.
Parts of it.
Yeah, that part might have been our fault.
Cool.
Sometimes I think about the adventures we've had together and I realize that somehow you've had worse. And that frightens me.
Anyway, Orm finishes putting on his little chain. I'm ready.
Yeah, I put the gloves on right away.
Does Sakar's armor involve changing pants?
No. You can wear, but I mean, it does involve taking off your armor. So you have to take off your armor. You have to put up the other one. But your undergarments,
right,
are could stay.
I have to summon my armor, then remove my armor,
then
put on a new armor.
I'll probably have to work on these bracers later.
Well, while we wait for Sakar to finish changing his clothes, why don't we take a break here, and we'll be back next week. Takes him a while. All those little buckles and clasps.
Just buckles and
Until then, thank you for downloading and listening and sharing this podcast with a friend. Podcast at majorspoilers.com. And until next time, here's hoping all of your dice rolls are critical hits.
This podcast is copyright 2018 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.